Hi everyone, I'm Jody at Fort Worth Fabric Studio, and today we are going to be making our Easy Mint table topper. And these instructions are on our website, so you'll want to go over there and print this off. And if you bought one of our kits, you'll be using these fabrics that are included. If you didn't buy one of these kits, you can use your own fabric. We've got the requirements listed on here. But I do want to let you know, so that this does show up like a peppermint, make sure that one of your fabrics is red and one of your fabrics is a lighter color. And other than that, you can use whatever you would like. So let's get started on this. First of all, let's get started making our half square triangle blocks. And you're going to take your dot print and your red print and put them right sides together. And then I'm going to use my OmniGrid marking ruler and line this up from point to point. And then draw along the sides. And these are going to be my sewing lines. So we will do this on all of the blocks. And then when we get that done, we're going to take and stitch along the marked line. And then we'll come back and cut these in half, and I'll show you how to finish those up. Alright, I'm going to get started sewing, and I'll be sewing along the lines I drew on each one of these. I'm going to do a little chain piecing here to make this go a little bit faster. So I'll be inserting one right after the other. And then you'll snip in between each and then go back to the other side and chain piece in the opposite direction. After you have them all snipped, you'll want to go back through and cut right in between your sewing lines right down the middle. So we're going to cut each of these in half, and then we will have a half square triangle made. They will look just like this when you're done. And you're going to want to take these to your iron and press your seam down toward the red. And then we'll come back and we'll trim these up. And don't worry, I gave you plenty of extra in here size-wise, so you've got enough room to trim around and make them look perfect. So if yours don't look perfectly square, don't worry about that right now. But get them all cut and press them toward the red, and then I'll be back to show you what to do next. Okay, I am back with my half square triangles. My seams are pressed toward the red. And I'm going to use my Block Lock 9.5 inch half square triangle ruler, and we're going to trim these down to 7.5 inches. So I'm going to line this up, and we gave you plenty of extra on here, so you're going to have a lot of room to work with, which will be really nice. I think it's always good to have extra so you're not cutting it too close on these. So my 7.5 inch is going to run here and all the way around. You can see that I've got the extra here. So I'm going to go ahead and trim all of that off on this side and along the top. And then I do want to mention, make sure that the words Block Lock are facing toward the red here, because you pressed your seam this way, and you need to line the ruler up that way in order for this to work properly. So then we're going to flip it on around and draw this back down, and this time I'm going to line up this side right here to 7.5 and then trim off the extra, and then I'm going to follow through and do that on the rest of these. Okay, I have all of my red and my dot half square triangles completed. And the next step is to take our dark floral squares, and we are going to draw our lines to make more half square triangles. So let me just get a few of these things out of the way here. Get my little trimmings out of the way. Okay. Now we are going to lay these right sides together, and this time we're going to make another half square triangle, And I know this isn't exactly perfect here, but don't worry because we do have plenty of extra on these to trim up down the road. So we're going to line this up, and now you're going to draw your line this way. You've already got a seam sewn here, so you really need to, you don't have an option but to go this way. So we're going to line this up and draw our sewing lines. And we're going to do this just like we did before. And we'll do this on all of our half square triangle pieces. And let me show you here, when we get this line on here, we'll have our lines on here, and then we're going to go and sew on these lines right here. And when we're done, then we'll be coming back like we did previously and cut down the center. So I'm going to go ahead and get these lines drawn on here so that they are ready to sew. Okay, now for the fun part, we are going to cut right in between our sewing lines here. So you kind of just want to gauge it and go right down the middle. And then I'm going to show you which way we need to press our seam. Alright, I'm going to open this up here. And there you go. We're going to press the seam down toward the dark floral. So you want to cut all these apart and go press your seams, and then we'll come back and trim these up. Okay, I'm back with my my triangles here all sewn on. My half square triangles are together, and I do want to point out, you're going to have opposites here. You're going to have, once you cut them and press them, you're going to notice you have red on the left, sorry, red on the right and red on the left. You can see they're just the opposite, and they're supposed to be that way. So go ahead and sort yours down to where you have them piled up that way. It's going to help you when we go to put this together if you kind of keep them separated that way. So first of all, we got to get started on trimming these up. And for this, I'm going to use my 6.5 inch block lock. You can also use the bigger one that I had out before. I just feel like the smaller one's a little easier to work with, and since I have it, I'm going to go ahead and use it. There's something I need to point out to you on here. Actually, a couple things. Again, make sure that your block lock words are going toward where we press the seam, toward the dark. And then when you get ready to line this up, this point right here needs to be right where this red and white piece meets. If you line it up and you cut it down here, you can see, like, from, if I block off this section here a little bit, you're not going to be lined up right. So that is the only difference on this. When you've got this seam here, you do need to make sure that your point as it comes down is right at the point of the ruler, and that's kind of going to be your guide where to start. But you can see we've got plenty of extra to cut off here. Again, we made sure you had plenty to work with. Just make sure your point is lined up. So I'm going to get started cutting these here. First along this edge, and this edge. Then we're going to flip this on around. And we're trimming this to 6.5 inches, which is exactly the size of this ruler. That's why I'm not really having to scoop this ruler around at all. And I'm going to continue on then with the other blocks and get them all trimmed up as well. Okay, these are all trimmed up, and now we're going to lay them out in the order we need them for our blocks. I wanted to bring out the finished blocks for you to see, to kind of help you see placement. I thought it would be easier. So if you take all of your pieces that have red on the left, they are going to be used to make your whirligig block. And if you take all the pieces that have the red on the right, those will be used to make your peppermint block. So you can look on your instructions to see exactly how to lay these out, but basically you'll just have to turn them as such, like this, and then like this, whoops, and like this here. Okay, and so this would be our whirligig block. I'm going to pull this peppermint out of here for now. So what you'll do is you'll take and you'll sew these two right sides together, and you'll sew these two right sides together. And then when you press your seams, you'll want to press them opposite directions. That way you will be able to nest your seams together when you match up your points. So we're going to sew this row and press our seams opposite. And then when we put this together here and sew this big long seam, you want to be real careful where your points are meeting up. In fact, you may want to pin that to check it or do a little basting stitch to check, because you do want them to match up as closely as possible. And I'm going to show you the back of this. What I did then was this seam here on the back that was in the middle, I pressed this seam open, and that was to help with the bulkiness in the middle. My two top and bottom seams I pressed toward the dark floral, and then this one open. So I'm going to take my blocks here over to the machine and get these put together. Just a quick note here, I switched my foot out to the 1/4 inch foot, so you'll either want to use your 1/4 inch foot for this 1/4 inch seam, or have a piece of tape marked along for you to follow along, because you'll want this to be exactly a 1/4 inch seam. You'll want to take and press your seams going toward the floral, so this one will go this way and this one will go this way, and then come back and stitch right sides together your middle seam coming down here, and then you'll have a finished block. I am back with my finished whirligig blocks, and they are both done, and I'm pretty happy with them. I think my points here were really good. My point here had a tiny bit of an issue, but that is just something that takes some experience and some time, so I'm not going to be too concerned about it. But these are done, and we are going to move on to make our 2 peppermint blocks. So let me set this aside, and for the peppermint blocks, you're going to take the brown and have it on the outside kind of as a frame. So if you just put your brown all the way around the outside like this, then you'll have your peppermint blocks. So on these, you're going to right sides together, sew here, and right sides together and sew here. And you'll want to press your seams toward the red print. And so this seam will go this way and this seam will go this way. Then you'll come back, and once these are together, you'll have this right sides down here, and you'll sew your 1/4 inch seam this way. And when you're done, you should be able to open it up, and of course this is just folded together, but this is what we'll have. And you'll want to press this middle seam open. I think it'll be helpful as far as the bulk in there. So I'm going to take this to my machine and get mine put together, and then I'll be back to show you what it looks like all finished, and I'll be back. Alright, I've pressed my seams the right way, and now I'm going to sew the long seam here, and then we'll open it up and press that seam open. Okay, here is our peppermint block, and as I said, I'll press this seam open, and then we will be ready to put all 4 of our blocks together for our table topper. Okay, my table is not quite big enough here, but you can kind of see this is the order we're going to put them in. It will be the whirligig, the peppermint, and then you'll do the opposite, the peppermint and the whirligig. So now all that's left to do is to sew each section together and then sew your middle seam. So I'm going to go put mine together, and then I'll be back to show you the whole thing. And we're almost there. Well, I am back from stitching my whirligig and peppermint blocks together. So I'm going to hold this up for you. And there's the whole thing put together. And it finishes at about 24.5 by 24.5. So now all that's left to do is for you to quilt it using your preferred method and bind it. If you bought a kit from us, you will have received this cute snowman print for your backing. And if you need to buy your own backing, if you're using your own fabrics in this, you'll need about 7/8 of a yard, and that'll give you plenty extra all the way around. And also our kit does include the pre-made bias binding, which will be a time saver for you guys. I hope you enjoyed making this quilt with me, this little mini table topper, and be sure to check out our link below to the free pattern download and have fun making your own. See you next time.